Hi BookTube, welcome to Jackie's Literary Corner. I am Jackie, and I'm going to talk about some of my my most memorable characters. So, as I said in the previous video, I wanted to do something to celebrate that I got 100 subscribers. And it was hard to come up with something because, just to come up with something that hadn't been done yet. Because I know a lot of people do Q&As, a lot of people, and I think what helps with Q&As is they have Twitter and stuff like that, and I do not have it, and I will not be getting Twitter or anything. So, although they also have Instagram, they do have Instagram, so that might have helped too. But, I just wanted to, and then a lot of people do, and I didn't want to do top 100 favorite books or top 100 books I want to read, because I felt like I already did that. I mean, I didn't have 100 books, but I did talk about books I want to read this year. I didn't mention the previous video, but I did try to find books that, literary anniversaries, and I know that both Ulysses and Don Quixote have anniversaries, 100th anniversaries this year. And then there's, I thought about who has a birthday and which authors have birthdays this month. So I thought about, being like, oh, let's read their books. But everybody has a birthday. So it's like, I felt like that wasn't, good enough. And so I decided to come up with talking about 100 memorable characters. And unfortunately, because it's 100, it's going to be it would be a long video. I mean, the first one was already long enough because I want to also talk a little bit about why these characters are memorable to me. So I stopped at 20 in the first video, and now I'm going to do 10 more. Okay, so next here are 10 more characters. So now we have Odysseus from the Odyssey. This is ancient literature, it's classic, and it has its flaws as literature goes. The story itself, it doesn't treat female characters well, but Odysseus is just such a fun, awesome character. He was kind of dumb, at times, but especially, like I said, there's the whole issue with the Cyclops, that is very memorable to me, obviously. You just want to be like, I'm just so frustrated with him. It's like, you could have got away and then you just totally screwed yourself over because you got cocky. But he's so like sassy and clever and just manipulative bastard, and he's such an ass, but he's also I also kind of like him, He's such a douche, but he's so I would never date someone like that, but if I did date, but he's just he's so charming and likable, and he does care about his crew, but although he gets most of them killed, I think. And like I said, he's such a dumbass, but he's just so fun to read about, I just can't help but kind of like him. Okay, and then we have number 22 is one of the good things about Dracula. One of the things I kind of liked, one of the characters I did like about Dracula was Van Helsing. I mean, there are times when you have these boring, long-ass monologues that are like, okay, get to the point. You don't have to explain every little detail. Or the author does not need to say every little, or Bram Stoker does not need to explain every little detail. But this character is just, Van Helsing is so awesome. He's so snarky, and he's just very blunt to the point. He won't sugarcoat anything, but it makes him funny. It makes it really funny because he just, in the movie anyway, there's the one scene where he basically tells Mina that we had to cut off your best friend's head, and John Harker is like, Van Helsing, he's so disturbed that this guy was just so blunt and honest and was so insensitive to his new wife and losing her best friend. But he's such a badass, and but he's just, like I said, he's just a little too blunt and honest at times. But he's one of the saving graces of Dracula. He's one of the things I like about Dracula is that, despite the fact we don't get enough Dracula in the story, it can be boring at times, he's just still so, interesting. He's so entertaining as a character. He's awesome. I love Van Helsing. And could partly be to do with, the movie adaptations of the character. Next is Crest, Crescent Moon from the Lunar Chronicles. She is my favorite of the three girls. And she is so naive and isolated. She spends all of her life in the satellite watching TV and has these delusions about, or not delusions, but fantasies about these people, especially about her love interest, that are inaccurate. So she's not been exposed to the real world, and she's very naive and a little too trusting at times. But she experiences all this abuse and lives and is isolated from the world, like Rapunzel, the original Rapunzel figure that she's inspired by. And she's so sweet and just believes in people and constantly has hope that no one will disappoint her. And she's like so sweet, and she's another character that I related to. Not that I'm that naive, because I've been out in the real world. In fact, I think the world has made me, has made at least a little bit cynical. I still try to stay true and have hope and stuff about the world and believe that the world is genuinely good. But the world can make you a little cynical at times, and but she's such a sweet, devoted, loyal person, and just like optimistic and hopeful. I love her. I just want to give her a hug. And now let's go in and talk about her love interest, Carswell Thorne. He's a swashbuckling hero, and he's a lot like Flynn in a way. I'm wondering if Marissa Meyer was inspired by Tangled. I don't know what came first, unless Disney was inspired by her. I don't know. I don't know what came first when this third book in the series or Tangled. I'll have to check that out, because I feel like the characters are very similar to each other. I mean, I know it's based on the same fairy tale, but still, you don't have to necessarily but it does make an interesting, entertaining dynamic. He's such a swashbuckling, charming guy. He's a flirt, but he's like someone that is, likable. And you just want him to see the light and to realize, okay, Crest is such a better person than you, but then you also think, Crest, you deserve a little bit better. But he does fall in love with her, and I'm kind of a sucker for that type of romance where the guy who's not necessarily too much of a bad boy, but he's a charmer, and and then he doesn't commit, and then he actually falls for the girl, and who's a good girl, and not necessarily perfect, but she's a commitment type, and he falls for her, and it changes so much. I know in real life, people don't change overnight. They have to want to change. But I kind of like it in romance, when I do get stories that have romance in it, where the guy is changed by this woman, by this girl. I like that, because it gives, and he's this charming rogue, and he's funny and snarky, and I love hanging out with Carswell Thorne, because he's a bit of a player, but he's still fun to be around, and he does grow to care about and try to be friends with Crest. That's the route they decide to be friends, which is probably good for them. They need to just be friends first. And that's what they do throughout the stories. They're just friends, and they are very supportive of each other, even though it kind of hurts her to be just friends with him. And, of course she's thrown splashed water in her face about who he really is quite a lot of times. But it's as he's changing and becoming a better person and falling for her. So it's almost too late. They almost do not work out. But of course, it's a fairy tale, so by the end of it, it's based on fairy tale, so, and it's a YA, so by the end of it, things work out. But, it's just, and he's such a great, deep down, even though he's a player, he's still very respectful and kind to her, to Crest, and, and maybe it helps that he does start to fall for her, but he's, I like the player character that's in when it comes to, the romance aspects, where he shows his good side. Like, he shows that he's actually good. Especially because he's influenced by his female counterpart. And I just, like I said, he's just such a charming character. Next is a Frankenstein character, the character from Frankenstein, the creature. He's not, and I'm talking about what Victor Frankenstein created. He's not actually the Frankenstein monster. That's not his name. The name, the title of the book refers to the doctor who creates him. So he's not the Frankenstein monster. I think it's just pop culture adaptations called him that, Frankenstein, but that's not really what he is. He's a creature, and having read the book, I'm kind of irked a little bit about how Hollywood treated the character. I mean, I understand. I'm not surprised. I have such mixed feelings on the whole Hollywood adapting stories. Like, I'm not surprised. I kind of understand why Hollywood does what it does, but at the same time, I can understand the frustration, and I do feel the frustration because I am both a fan of movies and books. The book I'm reading right now, and I'm listening to, I should say, not physically reading, kind of talks about how Hollywood can do that, and how Hollywood, but the creature he wants to learn things. He's like Temeraire. He's very philosophical and wants to learn things and understand the world around him. And you feel bad for him because he's so lonely and he's seen as scary and ugly looking. People are afraid of him and he just wants to have a life. And that is why he talks to Victor about making him a wife, because he's lonely and you feel sorry for him. I mean, his parts may be boring to read and tedious at times, but you do feel sorry for him. And he's a lot wiser than Victor himself. He's a lot smarter than Victor, and he sees things, And you can't blame him for wanting revenge on Victor, wanting to punish Victor for creating him. It's not his fault, It's his burden to bear, though, and he has to try to make something of his situation, and he can't do that because people see him as scary. And he's just, like I said, he's so philosophical and a lot smarter than he's given credit for, and pop culture gives him credit for. He's a lot more complex in the way he's treated by pop culture. He's not just this dumb brute with bolts in his head, He's actually smart and is really, absorbs a lot. And he's like a child. He's like a sponge. He takes in a lot of information and grows as the entity that he is. Okay, now we're finally talking about Will Lawrence, Temeraire's master. He's human. Will Lawrence is this good, kind person. In the world, he's someone who just has these modern ideas and has been heavily influenced by Temeraire and realizing that the world kind of sucks and is unfair and there's a lot of inequality unfortunately his parents make him more aware. Especially his father, he sees how his father treats people and how, he can never seem to please his father, so he doesn't have the best relationship with his parents because he wanted to do something different with his life, and his parents did not approve of it. They're like, this is how things are, you have to be this, and it's like he did not want what they wanted for him, and so him and his father constantly butt heads. But he still remains a good, selfless person, and, it's hard to do that, to be a good, selfless person when you're constantly being bombarded by society and told to be a certain way by society. But he's still very moral and still stays true to who he is. And he's likable, he's a nice guy, and he's just I think I do admit that there are some people that I do feel like there are some people that probably wouldn't agree with me. Like Temeraire is more memorable than he is. But he's he really, and I love his bond with Temeraire. It's so sweet. He's such a great guy and he wants to help Temeraire and he doesn't automatically dismiss Temeraire's beliefs. He's willing to listen and help him to get the justice and equality that dragons deserve. And he's very brave. I mean, he's a soldier. Then we have Kathy, not Heathcliff's Kathy, but Kathy from East of Eden. Kathy from East of Eden. She is such a horrible, selfish person and a master manipulator, but she's so compelling to read about, you know, and you're so terrified of her, what she's capable of. And I think that's what's so intriguing, what's so compelling, is she's so horrible and hateful, but you just, you know, again, she's another character that is like watching a car crash, because you're just so drawn to her and reading about her, want to know what other horrible things she's gonna do and who she's gonna mess with now and manipulate. Like, she manipulates Adam Trask and makes him fall in love with her, obsessively in love with her, and abandons him because she doesn't want to be a mom. And then she works at the whorehouse and becomes a mistress when she poisons, and she befriends and then poisons the woman who makes her sick. And she makes this woman terrified of her. You know, she becomes friends with her, and then she drugs her and makes her afraid of her, and then slowly kills her. You know, and she reduces this woman to a very pitiful thing that is like begging Kathy to spare her. And it's so disturbing what she is capable of. And she does get her comeuppance by the end. She doesn't win out, but she's just so intriguing to watch her, and watch, like, you're just so drawn to her and riveted by her and by her character. And I guarantee, you know, and I'm sure the actress who plays her is riveting too, and just in the movie adaptation, because there is an adaptation. I think it's Jane Seymour who plays her, because I heard, you know, my parents talking about it. You're just so drawn to her and her hatefulness, and you just wonder why she thinks the way she does. And she kind of reminds me of Faith Lane from Buffy, and that whole, like, all men are monsters and they deserve to be punished and tortured, and just that mentality. You pity people and women who think like that. You feel bad for them, because not all men are bad. I mean, I have a great dad, you know, and I have some good uncles, you know, they're good people, good men, and respectful to women, and treat them equally. And, you know, so I have men in my life that are great, that are, you know, are respectful and kind, and, you know, and very generous. So I have not been hardened by, you know, and ruined by society thinking that men are bad, because I have too many good examples of good guys. Okay, next is another character that is just antagonistic, and that is Annie Wilkes from Misery. She is a batshit crazy. And what's even scarier is that she is us fangirls. She kind of represents us in the extreme version of us, of what we're, you know, a worst version of fangirls and being a fangirl. Because she is so obsessed, the point of, you know, with this one author in this one series he wrote, and then when he doesn't write it, he stops writing and is done with it, and he does not write things the way she wants it to go. She gets mad. She is crazy mad, and when she comes across him, she kidnaps him, holds him hostage, breaks his leg, drugs him, keeps him as her prisoner, and is all like, you are going to rewrite this and write it for me and change the ending the way I want it to be. And, like, yeah, I get emotional and I get upset when things don't go the way I want them to go in a story, but I'm rational, and I am calm, and I won't go after the writers. Like, I have my issues with Once Upon a Time, but I will never go after Adam Horowitz and Eddie Kitsitz. I won't go after them, you know, as angry as I am at them. I'm not gonna, you know, and I hear things, and fans are really pissed at those guys, and some of them were, you know, and it's just, but I have never seen anyone go as batshit crazy on them as Annie Wilkes does. And she is the extreme version. She is like putting a mirror to fangirls, and being like, guess what? If you're not careful, and it's kind of scary. And of course, I can see where some readers might be a little, if they realize this, they might be a little offended and be like, no, I'm not that crazy, or fans are not that crazy. And of course, she has a lot of mental health issues. She's very unstable. So, you know, there's, like, so it's like she's just an extreme version, an exaggerated version of how crazy fans. And she was in response to how fans acted when they were very critical of something that Stephen King did. Like, Stephen King himself was inspired to how fans reacted to something he did in one of his books or something. So he was like, well, here's my answer to you guys, in a kind of sneaky, sly kind of way. Kind of slink kind of way of, But Annie Wilkes she's so sadistic. You're just drawn to her and want to see you're just biting your nails wondering what she's going to do next. But she just sees herself as in the right. In her mind, she is right and she is sane. And it's like, no, you're not, honey. And you're so fascinated by her. She's just such a great character study because you just so want to know, she's gonna snap any minute, and she reasons with herself constantly. Is like, I know exactly what I'm doing, and I am innocent, and and it's just like you almost feel sorry for her, and you're almost like, no, you're crazy. You can't treat him like this, and you may not like it, but that's just how it is. He has a right to write it how he wants. And she's like, no, in her mind, she's like, no, he does not. He needs to please me. And there's this whole argument of author intent and author ownership of a work. What right do they have, They're the ones who created it in the first place. And it's an interesting way of looking at it, and looking at the difference between fans and authors and who is in the right, as well. It's like, but Annie is such, you just can't help but be drawn to her as a character and just want to know, and just you love her and maybe you hate her at the same time. I will go up to, I was going to go up to 30, but actually I think I went more than 30, so I'm going to go up to 50. So it can mean I only have to do 2 more videos. Okay, so next is Lord Henry from Picture of Dorian Gray. He is such a master manipulator, but again, he's another character who's like, I'm in the right here. He sees, he thinks he's the good guy, and it's like, he thinks he's so smart, and he's very judgmental of society, but you're, again, another character, like, horrible characters, I'm just drawn to them. I'm fascinated by them, because I want to understand them, and why they think the way they do. And, like I said, no one wants to read a story where the characters are just good and perfect and never screwed up, because that's not reality. And considering how society was when this book is set and written, and he's just so, he's so selfish, and he makes some good arguments. He's very, you almost agree with him for, a second, then you're like, wait, really? For a second, you think, well, you make a good point, and it's like, well, actually, no, oh, wait, I don't know if I agree with this. You're almost amused by him and his way of thinking. And that just makes him so much more entertaining, because his way of thinking is a little messed up and you don't entirely agree with it. But at the same time, he sounds like he knows what he's talking about. And you're charmed by him. And then we have the title character in another Dickens novel, and that is David Copperfield. David Copperfield is someone who is he's naive and he's a bit of an idiot. He's more likable than Pip, I think. But you almost are watching him become, you almost watch him become kind of a jerk. But he's a little nicer than Pip is. Pip really goes downhill as far as being a decent human being. But David, I think he's a little bit better. He's not as bad as Pip. But he does kind of go downhill a little bit and becomes an indecent person. But he does grow and change and learns from his mistakes. But he's like, you just almost want to shake him and be like, wake up, dude! You're being friends with the wrong people. And you can kind of see his struggles with morality and trying to maintain who he is, but then he's surrounded, it's like poor versus rich. And the rich clearly get the best of everything, and they do well, and so it's like, they get the best schooling and everything, so he's exposed to all that. And he sees how the poor people in his life, and even though they're happier, it's like, trying to. So his arc is very interesting, and so is Pip's. And I definitely this is one I want to reread, but it's interesting. So it's like very interesting to see him go from someone who's poor to someone who does really well in life and becomes rich, but then becomes poor again, and goes back and forth. And you can understand his struggle to be, to get by in society and do well, and and not be alone and make friends and stuff like that. His struggle is very engaging and entertaining. Next is actually Dora, the woman that David marries. Dora is kind of an idiot, and she kind of represents that whole trope of the dumb blonde, because she's very naive and a little ditzy and a little but she's a sweet person. She's a sweet, caring person, and like I said, she's the cliche of the dumb blonde, which, and like I said, I know that is a cliche. I know that's not true, and it's unfair to classify women that are blonde as dumb, because it's not true. Like, it's stupid. But she does act like a ditz and act a little oblivious, and she's kind of silly, a very silly person, but she's really sweet and really does care about David, and I think her feelings for him are genuine. And I think she's a little bit of a hypochondriac, if I remember correctly. But she's also kind of charming and sweet, and you kind of actually like her. She kind of grows on you as a person, and she's so much more than, what you first believe she is. Like, she's more than just the dumb blonde. But she's so much more than that, as a person. Okay, next is Victor Frankenstein. So now we're on to Victor himself from Frankenstein. And he is he's so arrogant and is obsessed, gets obsessive. He just wants to create life, and then he regrets it, and he never fully takes blame for his mistakes. It's like, he's constantly he's that person who's like, woe is me, poor me, my, this creature ruined my life, and he's very selfish, and it's all about him and his problems, and you just want to shake him and be like, dude, wake up, take credit for your mistake, you screwed up, you made the bad choice, so stop whining about it and just accept it. And he's just such a frustrating character. You just get angry with him, but you also want to understand why he did what he did, and why is he so woe is me, and not want to blame everybody else, and not want to take credit for his own mistakes. You just want to, you dumbass. You just want to shake him. Now, the show Penny Dreadful made me like him a little bit more than I do in the original book, because the actor who played him did a great performance, and showed his more remorseful side, and just and actually they include the whole giving the creature a wife, and she's actually even worse. She's such a master manipulator. She's so interesting as, such a charming character in the, and complete, the actress is from Doctor Who originally, and now I didn't see any of her other stuff beforehand, so I don't know, so I only knew what she did in Doctor Who, but she did an amazing performance and is just so, like, she's so horrible, but she's also a character that I should have put on this list because she is, I was definitely drawn to her character and fascinated by her character, and I hated her with a passion, but I also loved her at the same time. But, you almost feel sorry for Victor and the creature because of her master manipulation of them. But, yeah, he's just such a morally corrupt character, Victor, and, you just want to be like, stop it and admit what you did. You made this mistake. Accept it, embrace it, and, quit whining about it. Next is a character from Middlemarch, and that is Dorothea, and I know I'm not the only one who loves Dorothea. She's very similar to Elizabeth Bennet and Margaret Hale, but she also makes some dumb decisions and makes mistakes and chooses and thinks she knows what's best for herself, but then she regrets it after it's too late and makes more mistakes. But she's such a good person and tries her best and cares about people and cares about the world and wants more out of life. And she's also very smart. Smarter than people give her credit, than she's given credit for. And she is very helpful, and, she doesn't let the world judge her, or, she stays strong even when she puts herself in a position where the world could judge her. Because she makes some bad choices and mistakes, and she's also, like, impulsive. But she's, you just kind of like her, and you feel bad for her, and you want her to do well in life. You want her to succeed and get her happy ending. Even by not the best means, not the most moral ways of getting it, but you still want her to be happy. Next is Wren from the Poppy War. I know a lot of people do not like her. From what I've heard, she is a polarizing character, but so far I'm loving her. She is awesome, and I've kind of got spoiled for the direction of her arc, but actually it makes sense, and I'm not really surprised. The direction that this character goes is it makes sense, the direction that she's gonna go, and she's such a, like, she's a good person, and I think she has good intentions, but she lets herself be corrupted, and she doesn't realize it ends up being a little too much for her to handle, but she sees herself as, I'm doing the right thing, which is like an addict. She becomes an addict. She thinks she's helping people, and in a way, unfortunately, she's such a young person who's caught in the middle of this war, so what other option does she have but to take on this power that she can barely handle? And why not take advantage of it? You can kind of understand her arguments. And she is a bit hot-tempered. And I also like how she learns on her own, takes the time to learn things, on her own, is not afraid to try to when her classmates and her teacher kind of kick her out, she is determined and is very stubborn, is not going to give up so easily. She tries to learn on her own and shows herself very capable, and that's what attracts the attention of this teacher who teaches this old form of magic to take her on, because he sees her discipline and her willingness to fight for what she wants and to be strong and to learn on her own, her capabilities of learning on her own. So, like, I know she's not the most likable person, but you know what? In the real world, people are not likable. People aren't always nice. People can be, selfish. People can be mean. People are not saints. And I think she's, a very realistic character with the situation that she's in. The next two characters are from the same book series. First, we have character 35 is Hadrian Blackwater, and Hadrian is just such a great guy. He's so nice, and he's so heroic and brave. He's honorable. He's a thief with a heart of gold, and he's someone that is just, he's not perfect, and he does, like I said, he's a thief. And, but he's also just a good guy, and he really wants to help people. And you kind of just love him. You kind of just like him. I just loved hanging out with him, and if I had a crush, I would say he's on my list of crushes. If I still had crushes. And then you have this partner, Royce Melbourne, he's got his own secrets to bear, and he's not always nice, and he makes bad choices. He's selfish and doesn't want to always help people, but then he really cares about Hadrian, considers him a friend. So he tries, because Hadrian tends to put himself in situations to help people that are dangerous, Royce, at the end of the day, will go back and help Hadrian because he cares about him. He doesn't agree with his decisions and things. And he's that friend who'll be like, oh, you're on your own. I'm not helping you, but then he turns around and is like, I can't abandon him. I have to help him. He really cares about Hadrian. That's one of his good, that makes him a likable character to me, is that he genuinely cares. That's one of his good traits. And with his secret, you can kind of, understand his distance from people and not wanting to help people, not wanting to get involved with people because of his secret. Then next we have a villain. We have two villains. Okay, so 40 and 41 are Charlie Manx and Leland Gaunt from Stephen King novels. And oh my god, these are such scary villains, but they're also so charming at times when they want to be, but then so scary, and they're gonna kill you, and you don't know when they're gonna do it, what they're gonna do, and they can win anybody over until it's too late. And they're just both so charming and almost likable, like, even if they're evil, you're just, again, drawn to them. And it's just, you're scared of them at the same time because you don't know what they're gonna do. And they understand humanity better than we understand ourselves. And that is just plain scary. So these characters are just so compelling and so fascinating, and just, like, in all their evil sadisticness. And I was yelling at this, like, no, don't listen to them. But then you can kind of understand why these people will be charmed by them. And then you have 42 is Victoria Mcqueen. So I mentioned I'll be talking about another mother, and she is the other mother on this list. And she loves her son more than anything and will do anything to protect him. She will do anything, I think, and she generally does care. I mean, there are some people that stick around, but deep down they don't care, and they abandon them, but they always come back. And it's like, why are you even a parent? Why are you even married? You don't care about these people. But Vic does care about, her child's father, Lou Carmody, and her son. She puts in all this effort to be a good mother, and it's such a struggle because she just can't keep, she is constantly being terrorized by Charlie Manx. It doesn't help her at all, but she tries her damned hardest to be there for Lou and her son. And so she's a good mother in the sense that she puts in the effort and does the best she can. That's why, to me, she's still a good mother. And then her whole power her gift comes in really handy. She can find anything, no matter how far away it is, with the help of her magic bridge and bike. And she's such a fighter. She fights for her child like Kate does. Kate Reese does. And you just, you want her to survive. You want her to be another chance to be a mother to her son. And it's just, you root for her despite the fact that she is very screwed up as a mother. She tries, she's just in a bad place and haunted by her experience with Charlie Manx, and she's so dysfunctional, but she is a fighter, and that's what I love about her, is that she fights even though the whole world is judging her, and now she just is struggling with being a good mother. because she keeps making mistakes, and she still tries her damn hardest. And then you have the father of her son, Lou. Lou is a sweetie. I love Lou. I love to give him a hug. He's so sweet, and he's caring. He really cares, and he's a fanboy. Just all those constant references to like things like Batman, like their son's name is Bruce Wayne Carmody. Wayne is his, like, his name's, they call him Bruce Wayne. It's so funny that he named his kid that. And he's such a dork and a nerd, but he's so caring. He's like a teddy bear. He is a big guy, but he's so brave, and he really wants to help. And you kind of understand he questions Vic, but he doesn't completely dismiss her. He doesn't completely, say, you're batshit crazy. You need to go to be in the hospital or whatever. He's very supportive of her, even though she, is not the best partner for him. He's very supportive and caring, and she's not completely, like, she knows that she's not the best partner. And she, dismisses him. I mean, and she kind of pushes him away, or tries to, but he's so sweet, and you just admire him, and just love him, and just, he's, you really care about him, and he's a bit naive when it comes to, he sees her with rose-colored glasses, and he's not the best best parent either. He's a little bit better than Vic is, but, he also tries his damn hardest, and he's better at being more responsible. He can handle it better than she can because he's not burdened with the ghost of his experience with a crazy guy. And Lacey, he just puts up with a lot. I mean, one of his biggest flaw is that he's overweight, and to the point of just he's lost control of his body, and he is a hard habit to break. You feel bad for him because you want him to try his damn hardest, not just to be a good parent, but so he can live. Because let's face it, I mean, unfortunately, if you get, like, nothing is wrong with, every body type is beautiful, but if you can get to a point where you can get too overweight, where it can kill you, because our bodies can't handle it if it goes too far. And, he struggles. But I think their life and death situations they find themselves towards the climax is what motivates him if they survive. It's what pushes him to make sure he lives a good, healthy life. And then we have the Wicked Witch of the West, aka Elphaba from Wicked. Elphaba is someone who, she's there's a word for it. There's people who fight for the rights of human beings and everything. She's an activist. She fights for the rights of animals with a capital A, animals that are like humans, but they look like animals. She's such a strong person, despite the fact that she has a green skin, so she's made fun of and judged by society, but she fights for herself and doesn't let it get her down. She just keeps to herself and is content with her life. I mean, she wants friends, but she's accepting that she's not going to get it. And then there's Glinda, who kind of at first uses her, but then I think they eventually do become genuine friends. And all she wants is to be accepted by society and just work with the wizard because, become his protege and someone to be admired and respected. Unfortunately, it does not go well. But she still fights for what she wants. And despite the way, and she's such, again, I'm going to use the P word, a passionate person. She is so strong-minded and tries not to let what people think of her get to her. Alphaba's awesome, and I definitely want to reread the book. I read the original book years ago, before the play. Where was I? Next we have 45, which is Princess Winter from the Lunar, another Lunar Chronicles character. Princess is just, Winter is, she refuses to use her mind control powers on the people that don't have the powers, all because she's Lunar. She has this mind control gift, and she does her best not to use it. And she's such a sweet, caring person, and she's that person that comes off as crazy because not using the gift can mess with your mind a little bit, make you a little loopy, a little crazy and delusional. But she still is, she's that character that she says things that are like, what the heck are you talking about? But then she proves actually a lot wiser than people give her credit for. And she's so good and kind, like Snow White, But I think she's not as naive as Snow White. I think she starts out as naive, and then as she gets older and realizes the truth about her stepmother, she actually proves herself a lot smarter than people give her credit for. She just also is very trusting and accepting of people and kind and willing to help anyone and not automatically dismiss someone just because they work for her evil stepmother, just because, she believes that there is good in everybody and fights for people, and especially the man that she loves. And she's so optimistic and hopeful. You want her to get what she wants. You want her to be happy. You want her to be right. That there is good in the world. And I want to give this girl a hug. I just love Winter. She's so great. And, 46. Okay, another character from The Witcher, and that is Siri. Siri is so feisty and so strong as a character. She loses her grandmother and her mother and father, and loses everybody she loves. She's out in the world all alone until she meets the Witcher, Geralt, and Yennefer, who become like foster parents to her. And then she's taken from them. She's separated from them, and she just continues to fight. She is enslaved and is forced to take care of herself. She's forced to run with a bunch of gang of kids. She is forced to grow up really fast at such a young age, and everybody's hunting her down because she is the future queen of this kingdom, and all this way of the world, and all this pressure, and she is potentially to be a Witcher, and she's just, bonded to Geralt. And such a badass, and she learns to, despite what she's been through, she continues to fight and learns to take care of herself, and is a fighter, a badass fighter. She's so awesome as a character, and, this girl is badass, and she's still a kid, so there are times when she can be stubborn and snarky and rude, and says things that are just like, you idiot, you need to shut up. But, you can't blame her. There's a lot of young characters that are like that you just want to add when you're reading it as a little bit older, and you're like, stop talking. But yeah, she is awesome. Siri is badass. Almost done with part two. And then you have Long John Silver from Treasure Island. Long John Silver's so awesome. He's a pirate. He's, sinister and kind of, evil in a way. But he's also just likable and charming. I like characters that are villainous, but they have a likable side to them. They're actually kind of charming, and you kind of fall for their charms. Of course, that can get you in trouble in the real world. But, and you can see he has a soft spot for Jim Hawkins. He really cares about him. And, even though he's a kid, and he knows he could be a bad influence on this kid who is good, morally good person, he really cares about him, and you can understand Long John Silver's greed and selfishness. you know, I mean, he's a pirate. It's natural. It's second nature to him. But, like I said, you're just charmed by him. You kind of like him. He's kind of like some of the pirates in Pirates of the Caribbean. And I would love if they brought his character into the Pirates franchise. Because I know they're gonna, you know, reboot it. And I know people have strong reactions to that, especially because the whole Johnny Depp controversy and people, you know. But I think it'd be great to see him, Long John Silver. Okay, and then we have... Okay, so this character does not have a name, but she's the main character in the novel Rebecca, and she is so relatable, and just seeing her spiral is what makes her memorable, in my opinion. She's such a sweet, not, you know, a person that is very passive, keeps herself, is very similar to Fanny Price and Jane Eyre, but, you know, she just wants to be like them. She wants to be loved and respected, and she makes a choice to give into her desires for this rich guy and who claims to love her and marries him rather quickly. And then it ends up being her downfall because she cannot compete with the lovely Rebecca, and she makes quite an impression. And I think this was inspired by Jane Eyre. This plot, this Daphne du Maurier was inspired by Jane Eyre, I think, with the story. And just seeing her downward spiral is what makes her memorable. Like, despite the fact that she's quiet and shy and awkward, she makes an impression, in my opinion. Like, she's not Rebecca, but she, you know, just, like, you just feel for her and want her to be not dismissed. In fact, Taylor Swift herself was inspired by Rebecca with, there's a song, Tolerate It, on the second CD she came out with, that was inspired by Rebecca, and how, like, in the main character in Rebecca and her struggles with trying to please her husband, but then she's never good enough because the shadow Rebecca looms over them. But it's just, and she's so young too. I mean, this guy is in his 30s and she's maybe early 20s. And you just want her to get out of people's shadow and do something with her life and prove people wrong about her and stand up for herself. But it is a struggle when you're that kind of person. Trust me, I know from experience. It's not easy. And I just felt for her. Okay, the last character I'm going to talk about before I get to is, before I start another one, is Scarlett O'Hara from Gone with the Wind. Now, I know people take issue with Gone with the Wind. It's very dated, and the way they treat black people is, like, the way black people are treated was just, you know, it's messed up. But Scarlett is still Scarlett O'Hara is still a memorable character. She's so dramatic, so selfish and vain, and just me, and, you know, she takes advantage of people, and it's just so interesting to see a story from her perspective. That's why Emma is so interesting, because she's not a great person. She's in both cases, they're horrible people, but it makes it so much more interesting when it's in their perspective, because a lot of times in novels, especially young adult novels, the main character is a good person, good morally, and just has a good, strong moral compass, and is kind, and just cares about people, and sees the good in everybody, including the tortured hero, anti-hero character, or whatever. And, but to see it in a character that's a spoiled brat, and very vain, and selfish, and just all about them, and, you know, we like seeing Buffy from the perspective of Cordelia. It's just, like, and it makes it more of an entertaining story and an engaging story, because, you know, they're not a good person. You kind of you get inside their head and want to understand why they think the way they do. And just, Scarlett is so, like, she fights for what she wants, you know, but she manipulates people. And you just want to understand why. And, like, you know, you almost feel sorry for her, because you spend time with her and get to know her as a person. See, she has good in her, and she does, you know, And you kind of feel, it allows you to feel sorry for her and pity her when everybody on, like, when her reputation is ruined and they think bad, the society thinks bad of her. And when, even by the end, Rhett Butler has given up on her. You know, you feel bad for her. And it did make me interested in seeing the sequel, which was not written by Margaret Mitchell. But there is a sequel. And I think it tries, I think it does a pretty decent job at staying true to the original Gone with the Wind, but, you know, it can't beat the original story. And the original story, the way it ended, made it even more interesting, because it ends in a way that you don't expect. You expect it to have a happy ending. It doesn't really have a happy ending. That's all I'm going to say. If you have not read it. Of course, you might not want to read it, because, like I said, there are some questionable things in there, you know. But Scarlett, you gotta admit, she's a memorable character if you have read it. She's just like, you, on the one hand, you're frustrated and annoyed by her, but on the other hand, you feel sorry for her. And she's just such, like, it's like, wow. Like, what is wrong with you? You know? So that was, so 20 through 50. And I'm gonna probably take a break from filming, in all honesty, because I'm starting to get hungry. And I do need to get some reading done, so I will film parts 3 and 4. Hopefully 4, I only need 4 parts. Another time. Either I'll film it today and upload them all today, or not. I don't know. I do want to get some reading done, and I need to get some lunch. And then, because it was too cold this morning, I gotta run in the afternoon. And I feel, it drives me crazy if I don't, because I feel guilty if I don't. So it's, so again, I hope you continue to like my videos where I talk about like these videos as I talk about my 100 most memorable characters. Feel free to share in the comments below some of your most memorable characters. I would love to hear. And you obviously don't have to do 100, but I'm just doing 100 because I have 100 subscribers and I want to, you know, celebrate that I got 200 subscribers, like I said. So I'm doing 100 characters. So if you like this video, be sure to give a thumbs up, click subscribe if you haven't already, click the bell notification below if you want to be notified when I post new videos. And again, feel free to share in the comments below some of your most memorable characters. I will talk to you all later. All right, bye!